I found homemade granola to be an easy, healthier alternative to cereal in the mornings. We have 7 children, and so for us, that has been very important that we have something that we can do on the go. This recipe is kind of nice because you can alternate ingredients based on the things that you like or have in your cupboard. I begin by combining 3/4 of a cup of syrup. I'm using the real stuff today, but I've used imitation as well, and it works too. Then 1/2 cup of vegetable oil, and 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. I'll then use my whisk to mix it up. I want all of that oil to mix in really well with the syrup. At the beginning, you can see that the oil just kind of sits on top of the syrup. The more that you whisk, the more you can see that it begins to merge together. And as soon as that's nice and smooth, then I set that off to the side. Now it's time for the fun stuff. I'll start with 6 cups of rolled oats. I don't want to use the quick cooking oats because they would be too small. You want a little bit of chewiness to this. And then 2 cups of walnuts. I don't actually cut these. I just kind of break them up just a little bit. I'm not really that worried about them being small. You could do chopped walnuts if you wanted to. These come from our trees, so when we're pulling them out of the shells, they break up a little bit anyways, but I kind of like the bigger pieces. It does mean that I have to watch for shells though. And then it's 1.5 cups of shredded coconut, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 1/4 of a cup of chia seed, 1/4 of a cup of quinoa. That just adds a little extra crunch to it. 1/4 of a cup of flax seed, and 1/4 of a cup of pepitos, which is just the pumpkin seeds that have been hulled. If I don't put the pepitos or the chia seed in it, I hear about it. I like to mix things up just depending on what's in the cupboard and whatever I'm in the mood for that day. But those are the 2 that the kids always want in it. Now I'll mix all of my dry ingredients together and try to get it nice and dispersed. Especially that brown sugar, it likes to clump up a little. It looks so delicious. I love working with this one. The next step is to add the syrup mixture to my dry ingredients. I usually use a spatula just to make sure that I get all of it in there. And then I mix it in. It starts getting a little sticky at this point, so I try to put all of that dry ingredients up on top of the syrup and just push it together. If I get a bunch of it on my spoon, it's gonna be really hard for me to get everything off. I then load up a large baking sheet that has deeper sides with my granola. I have done the smaller sided ones and just do 2 separate pans, but I like doing it on this one. Then I spread my granola out evenly. I want to make sure that it's not any thicker in one spot than the other, just so that it cooks evenly, right? Then I'll place this in the oven at 250 degrees. Since it's been 15 minutes, I'll pull out my granola and I'll go ahead and stir it. Generally speaking, the stuff that's at the edges is going to get the most cooked, so I try to pay particular attention to that and make sure that I get some of the center out towards the edge. And I'll come back and do this after it's been 30 minutes, and then 45 minutes, and then an hour, and then finally at the hour and 15, that's when I'll take it out. And you can see the difference every time that you do it because it's cooking just a little more each time. Now it's been an hour and 15 minutes, so I pull out my granola and I just give it a good stir. And it should be just nice and golden brown. I did want to say that if you wanted to add any dried fruit, you would do that in the last 15 minutes of cooking. So that last time that you stir, you would put in the chopped fruit. All right, so stirring it just releases some of that heat and gets it a little bit more dispersed as far as that moisture goes. And then I'll set this on the counter and let it cool down for about 30 minutes to an hour. Sometimes it's really nice to eat it while it's nice and hot, but you don't want to put it in your airtight container until after it's cooled down completely. This is usually when I lose a lot of my batch with the kids coming in the kitchen. Now that it's nice and cool, I'll add it to my airtight container. For me, I use a mason jar, but you could use anything as long as it was airtight. The key is that you don't want any air getting to it and adding moisture. I've found the wide mouth jars are a little bit better than the narrow ones to use, but you could really use either. And the jar funnel makes it just a little bit easier too. This just feels lovely. You can see all of those wonderful seeds and grains in it. I think it's just a wonderful recipe. So this recipe makes about 1 gallon of granola, and it's so much less expensive than what you would get at the store. Plus it doesn't have any additives to it. Plus you can customize it according to what you like. I'll place an airtight lid on this and store it in a cool, dry, dark location like my pantry and use it in the next 3 to 6 months. I've been trying to decide how I was going to do the taste tester for this one because you can eat it multiple different ways, but I think what I've decided is just to eat it plain. I mean, a lot of my kids will do that. My teenage sons will take a whole jar up to their room and they'll just eat on it over the next couple of days as they're up doing Legos or reading books or whatever they're doing. So the flavor is just lovely. You get the nuttiness of the nuts and then you get the seeds in there. You also get the crunch of the quinoa and the characteristic taste of the chia seeds. The kids really like how they fluff up when they're in the milk. It has just that little bit of sweetness from the syrup, but it's not overwhelming. And then the little bit of oil that's in there also enhances it. I mean, just all in all, a great granola. We like to use it as cereal with just a little bit of milk in it. We've also used it as topping on yogurt or on ice cream, or like I said, just eating plain.